Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to discuss something I found to be very interesting, and it has to do with wild animals in the land of the Somali people. Um, of course, I'm reading Richard Barton's book, First Steps in East Africa Exploration of Harar, and this is a book where Richard Barton describes or explains or tells us how he traveled from Aden as a spy of the British all the way to Harar and back to and back, while presenting himself as an Arab merchant. And there are so many things, of course, that he talks about in the book. Of course, meeting the people, the culture, of course, the um, religion and the city itself, Zayla, history. He discusses so many things. But the other things that he brings up that of course, we might think that they were not important, but if you look at them today, you'll be like, that's important. It's something to think about at least. He does describe the nature as he travels from Zeila all the way to Harar, and then he travels from Harar going to Berbera. He describes the nature, the mountains, the valleys, the rivers, and also the wild game. And I found that to be very interesting, especially considering that today there is very little of elephants in particular in Somalia, but I stand to be corrected. If there is any elephant in Somalia, it must be in very small numbers. Maybe I'm misguided about that, but as I've said, I'm willing or ready to be corrected about the population of elephants in particular in the land of the Somali or Somalia today, the country we know as Somalia today. Um, but today, as I said, we don't hear, or at least even if there are elephants in Somalia and gazelles, it's not something anybody focuses on a lot. Um, or most people don't at least. But reading Richard Barton's book, there is a description of a lot of elephants in that land or on that land. Elephants in particular, and gazelles and antelopes, especially he talks about it while he's traveling to Harar, and he talks about elephants, elephant hunting, and things like that. And then also while he's traveling back from Harar going to Berbera, he talks about a lot of elephants on the way. And of course, there is a part where I think I had mentioned about him talking about the how the elephants were hunted, and often killing an elephant was taken to be an act of heroism among some clans of the Somalis, such that people would go hunt an elephant and kill it, just like the Maasai hunt lions, or used to, not today, and it was counted to be an act of heroism. Seems like it used to be, at least in some of the clans, maybe not all. But that tells you there were a lot of elephants on the land. Of course, Somalia, just like the rest of East Africa, faced a lot of poaching, of course, and I think that has played a significant role in diminishing the numbers in the land of the Somali. That today there is little talk of any elephant populations on that land. I don't know about the gazelles and the antelopes, whether they are still there. Um, so poaching became a huge business in East Africa, I think, from the 19th century or even before that. Poaching became a huge business. There was a huge demand for ivory, and ivory was a major export from East Africa, of course. And that, of course, included Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, those countries, all the way to South Africa, actually. All those countries, the eastern coast, used to produce a lot of ivory that used to go to the rest of the world. Now, of course, at some point, some countries recognized that that was not going to be sustainable in the long term, because elephants are animals that take quite some time to mature. So if there's a lot of killing of them, there's not enough replacement of the elephants that have been killed, because elephants take a while to mature. And so there were steps that were taken. Even in Kenya, the number of elephants actually declined significantly. By 1970s, there were about 16,000 elephants in the entire country. And while we might not know what the number was actually, maybe beginning 1900s, but when you read books like documents like Richard Maynard Sagan's diary and John Boy's book, they create this impression that elephants and of course other animals was so many. There was so many on the land. I remember Richard Mainesagen even tried to count as he was traveling, I think from Mombasa to Nairobi. He tried to do this, of course not accurate. He was trying to do some counting of the amount of elephants and other animals he was coming across. Of course, it was not possible for him to get an actual number, but the point he puts across is that these animals were so numerous on the land. So, but then by 1970s, Kenya has like 16,000 elephants. And but then there is a legal intervention later on, slowly in the 1980s, I think 90s. President Moore in particular did play a major role in stopping the poaching. And then there were laws that were passed. Today, if you kill an elephant and you are arrested, you could actually go to prison as if you killed a human being. And that has helped because now the population has doubled. In fact, there are concerns that the spaces that exist today are not enough for elephants. And in fact, there has been this now moving elephants from one place to another because the space is not enough. Maybe the ultimate solution would be, for example, Somali joins, because there was a corridor apparently from all the way from Somalia all the way to Tanzania, maybe to the south of the continent, and the elephants used to roam that corridor. So maybe that corridor may need to be reestablished to create more space for elephants. But anyways, the video is about uh, Richard Barton telling us about these elephant populations in the land of the Somalis, and then contrast with today. I don't know whether there are many elephants in Somalia, and as I said, I'm willing already to be corrected about the population of elephants today in the land of Somalia, the entire of Somalia today. Those are my random thoughts.